So welcome, everyone. Welcome to this very special session launching Brianna's Garden. My name is Ruha Benjamin, and it's my honor to be your moderator today and invite you to participate in this conversation at the intersection of tech, art, social justice, and education. In my day job, I'm a professor of African American studies, and I've written quite a bit about the potential harms of big tech, or what I call the new Jim Code. But in my more recent work, Viral Justice, I've shifted the focus to the ways that people like our panelists today are working to reimagine and transform the deadly status quo by seeding new possibilities for joy, healing, and justice. Animating all of this work is the invitation to dismantle the worlds we cannot live within, even as we reimagine the worlds we cannot live without. Brianna's Garden is an incredible embodiment of that invitation. So with that, I'm going to ask the panelists to come to the stage one by one. We have first Lady Phoenix, who is a universe builder and leading voice for contemporary digital art, founder and chief curator of Yes Universe and creator of Brianna's Garden. Please give her a hand. Next, we have Joanna Popper, who's a civil rights activist, sister of Breonna Taylor, and key collaborator on Brianna's Garden. Please give her a hand. Kenny Walker is a civil rights activist, partner of Breonna Taylor, and key collaborator of Brianna's Garden. Please give him a hand. Sutu is the creative and technical director at iJack and art director of the augmented reality of Brianna's Garden. Please give him a hand. China McCrae is a senior program manager at Microsoft and technical partner and sponsor of Brianna's Garden. Please give her a hand. Last but not least, Joanna Popper is executive producer of Brianna's Garden and global head of VR go-to-market at HP. Please give her a hand. So for those of you who had the opportunity to experience this exhibition, you saw that we're guided through the hearts and minds of Brianna's loved ones with their consent and participation. This sacred place is a room inside the family's home filled with mementos and portraits of Brianna, which honor her life, where we hear her stories about Brianna's passion for helping others, and where we have the chance to read heartfelt letters from people all over the world. So now, before we dive into the panel, we first wanted to hear from you all. Just to take a few volunteers, either those responding on the app or coming to the mic so that it can be part of the live stream. We wanted to hear what brought you to this session, and perhaps one thing that you're hoping to learn from the conversation. And so we have an opportunity to hear from just a couple people, and we'll start here to my left. So is there a mic? Can someone point the mic out? Oh, it's on this side. All right, thank you. And if you want to also share, feel free to just line up behind the first person here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marika. I'm from the Twin Cities, and I'm just excited to be in a space with people that are living out hope and breathing a future of prosperity. So many times we get drudged down in all the things that are going on. To see this light on the stage is really important for me, and it breathes life. So I just really want to thank you all for this opportunity to be here.
What's up, y'all? I'm Baratunde Thurston, and I am echoing what my sister just said. It is really nice to see creativity, blackness in this digital space, defining a future, not just being victim to it. So thank you all for everything you do. What's up?
Share what brought you to this session, or one thing that you hope to learn from the conversation today.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Carter, and I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we have been doing some work with the Tatiana Jefferson. As far as the faith base, I represent the faith base, so I just wanted to be here today to just get an insight to what maybe that could help us there in Fort Worth.
Thank you.
Hello. Oh, God. Hi, my name is Brianna, and I am currently studying animation. I'm a freshman at St. Edward's University, and I'm excited to see how the gaming industry is implementing visuals in correspondence with social justice issues and what the future of more of those types of games would look like.
Thank you. Thanks. Nice to meet you. All right. Let's jump in, everyone, into the conversation. I want to start with a Lady Phoenix to my left, creator of Brianna's Garden. I was hoping that you would tell us what initially motivated you to create this project and share some of the key tenets that have guided your team's work and anything else you want to share.
I like the phrase key tenants. Sounds so important. So what motivated me is when I began kind of investigating the story on my own, I felt like the news media wasn't telling the truth about Brianna, and it really bothered me that someone who was, I felt, innocent in this situation was kind of being, their name was being mired and dragged through the mud. So I began looking at like who her family members were, following them on social media. I was really drawn to Janiyah. When I would see her on the news, it just felt like, you know, her mom would be out there talking, obviously, you know, she's a champion for the family, but I was constantly drawn to Janiyah, just thinking like, what is she feeling? What's her story? What's going on? Because she would always be in the back and really silent, kind of with her head down, obviously looking as, you know, as if someone had stolen the most important thing from her. And began following her on social, understood more of who Brianna was from her standpoint, and felt satisfied that finally I was learning the truth about this person, about this Black woman. And then I learned that people were sending death threats to Janiyah online, on Instagram, on Facebook, simply for grieving her sister, saying things like, you know, she deserved every bullet, you guys deserve to die, like, all, you know, the N word, the B word, like really horrible behavior online and just horrible display of humanity. And so I decided, well, I got to do something, you know. I can't join the protest, I can't go to Kentucky, but I'm an artist and I know other artists, and creatively we should do something. And so I thought, well, there should be a place that Janiyah can go to be with her sister, whether she wants to mourn, whether she wants to laugh at old memories, you know, whatever it is. There should be a safe place where people can grieve and mourn for their loved ones online. And so Brianna's Garden was that response. I called up my buddy Sutu, and I said, I kind of have a crazy idea. And he was like, oh boy, let's hear it. And from that moment, Brianna's Garden was born. He was like, heck yeah, I'm 100% into this, let's do it. And we worked really feverishly starting from July 2020. We premiered first at Tribeca, then we went to Miami with Art Basel, the Film Gate, and the Perez Museum, and now we're here at South by Southwest. So thank you for moderating. Thank you for having us, South by Southwest. Thank you, Janiyah and Kenny, for saying yes. Thank you, Sutu, for being like, I'll join you on this crazy adventure. Thank you, China, for your support through Microsoft, and thank you, Joanna, for kind of like stitching all of this together and making the right introductions to have this project be successful. This is, I know we're all up here kind of like a rap video. We've got every single person up here, even the homie from way, way back, but I wanted this moment at South by Southwest to really be a display of who all has been a part of this project and inspiring us. We even have Heidi, who's been our PR person and really also helping to keep everything together for us. So this project really is about love. I know people think often like, oh, this is grief. Grief is the other side of love, because there's so much deep appreciation and reverence there that when there's a loss, it's felt. Right? So thank you all for being here and joining this conversation. Thank you for those who are listening on the stream. Yeah, I'm really proud of this project, and really hoping that folks will join this, join us in Brianna's Garden. Keep saying her name. Justice hasn't been served yet, and that's the point. Brianna deserves justice, and all the Briannas in the world deserve justice. So let's start right here, right now, to make a decision and a pledge in our hearts that we will keep saying her name until, like the walls of Jericho, the walls of injustice come down. Thank you.
Ashe, Ashe. Thank you for sharing that origin story. And so now none of us would be here without Janiyah and Kenny sharing their truth. And I know for those who've actually experienced the garden, we've heard directly from them. We've heard some stories and memories. of Brianna from their perspective. And so I'm really curious about the very first time that you experienced the garden for both of you. What was that like? Can you take us into that moment? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And just share with us that experience.
Well, when I first experienced it, I think where was I at? We was doing something as a family, and so I had got it through text message originally, and I was like, okay. I told my family they had to shut up because I had to do something, and so when it was starting, of course they all were around me, and so of course we all kind of cried about it all together because it was like we got to see her again. And so it was very bittersweet because it's like we get to see her again, but it's not in human form.
Well, yeah, to kind of piggyback what she said, it was definitely bittersweet. Like it's really cool to see Brianna in a different space, you know, alternate reality and whatnot. But you know, it's also, you know, sad because we won't ever get to like physically see her again. But it's just really good to, you know, because Brianna still hasn't gotten justice. So for people to get to see her in a different light or get some type of personal sense of kind of who she was or the love that we have for her, like how you can even go into the Breonna Taylor room in the app, you know, it's kind of personal. So it's a crazy experience, and it's still mind-blowing to me to this moment.
Yeah, and it's not just Brianna that we see, but I know that when you first saw your own holographic image, can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to cry about that, but that's weird. I don't know. I appreciate everybody taking the time, you know, to work with me and give me this opportunity, and yeah, that's crazy to see yourself as a hologram. I don't know. I never thought I'd see that.
Thanks for sharing, Kenny and Janaya. So many digital spaces, as Lady Phoenix described at the beginning, are characterized by various forms of harm, violence, discrimination, whether it's overt or more subtle. But Brianna's Garden is one of the first, if not the first, that I've experienced with the explicit intention of healing, of personal healing, collective healing, and transformative justice. The values animating its design and the process of collaboration, which we'll hear a bit more about with Brianna's family and other partners, are fundamentally different than what we usually witness with tech development. That said, all of you are pushing the boundary of technology in terms of what was previously possible, whether it's AR, VR. So I want to start with Sutu. Can you take us behind the scenes a bit and tell us about what makes Brianna's Garden unique in terms of the AR specifically, and also about some of the design decisions you made and any challenges that arose in the process?
Sure, thank you. So yeah, when Lady Phoenix reached out and sort of explained her idea, then it was a series of decisions that we had to make. One of those decisions was that we wanted to make sure the experience was accessible to as many people as possible. We wanted to, and the access is the most accessible in digital technology right now is that everybody has like a mobile phone that's fairly powerful. So we decided that we were going to use mobile phones and that we would use augmented reality, because the second thing that was really important to us, or actually the first thing that was really important to us, was that we wanted, in the augmented reality experience, to begin with, we wanted Janaya to be the custodian to the story. It was most important that you hear Janaya's story from her own mouth. You see her presenting it. She looks incredible in the experience, and we captured her as a volumetric hologram to have that presence in this digital space, and then and because grief is such a personal and complex issue to tackle, we had to sort of imagine what the audience might experience or how they might experience it, and that's called like the user journey or the user experience. And we went through a lot of those sort of thinking about, like, you know, what do they do when they open the app up, we encourage them to find a space that's important to them. You know, find a garden or a beautiful space to activate the experience, and that's about setting the right tone and the mood. And then when you activate the experience, you're shared a memory, a video memory, which was actually Jania's shared her videos of her and her family, and so you get a sense of who these people are. Then you enter the garden, and you know the garden and its design was inspired by the things that Brianna loves, the flowers that she loves, the butterflies that she loves, the colors that she loves. So we're very much trying to establish a visual aesthetic that is all around the things that she loves to set again the mood, and then and Jania's voice is guiding you through that setup and onboarding you into the experience, and then finally Jania appears as a hologram and shares some really touching memories. And you know, these are the memories of like the deepest love, the things that we all cherish with anybody that we love. And what one of the conversations that came about kind of early on was, and this kind of addresses what Lady Phoenix was talking about, was you know, this became a very high-profile case in America and across the world. Like I was living in the desert in Australia, and every kid in my town, I was living in an Aboriginal community, everybody knew this story and were following on, and were taking inspiration from people like Jania and the family, you know, in their own movements for justice as well. And it became apparent very early on that this was having a global impact. And what's really beautiful about the experience in the augmented reality app is then Jania invites the audience to record their own message. You know, her heart is so big that she's allowing everybody to join. Sorry, you might have to take over.
We don't have to apologize for crying.
But it's that thing of like, how do we get through this stuff that's so hard? And creating space for other people when she's going through all of this is just so incredibly inspiring. So thank you.
I was just going to say, when we were developing the project, that was me all the time. And when we first presented to Jania and Miss Tamika together, her mother, I got like maybe 3 minutes in, and then I was texting Sutu, and I'm like, I literally can't talk anymore. And my voice was shaking, and you know, he would take over. He was so incredible as a partner. First of all, he's a legendary VR, AR artist, an incredible person, just a big heart. And I think part of, you know, developing this, especially the AR portion, is that you really have to have community. People who will stand shoulder to shoulder and heart to heart with you as you put your vision, goals, dreams, as you become vulnerable and more vulnerable. It takes a lot of authentic vulnerability to invite someone into the heart of what you're making and what you're doing, and even to the heart of healing. Healing isn't possible without vulnerability. And so, yeah, just I'm so thankful to him. As a partner, as a creative partner on this, his expertise, his vision, and really his heart. And so thankful to Jania and Kenny. You know, we've had some kind of tough moments, like emotionally, like, is this something we share? Is this something we don't share? Do you feel comfortable sharing these memories or saying this thing? I think people don't quite realize that justice doesn't just look like, and protest doesn't just look like being on the streets. Protest and justice also look like this. I think that culturally, you know, we've had to depend on our own forms of restorative justice and transformative justice because we don't have the privilege of having justice from the judicial system, right? And so for us, for me, certainly, this is the beginning steps of justice in the form of love. Loving someone, being in communities with someone, supporting someone, holding space to simply listen to someone is a form of justice. There are many different types of forms, and just because we're here at this level of trying to participate in restorative justice to make right, to make a correction, we still, you know, need to push for that other form of justice.
And can I just add one thing technically now I've pulled myself together? One thing I was really proud of is that when people recorded their message, they put that information in. It's saved to a CMS where it's moderated because we wanted to ensure that it was a safe space. But then they're sent an email with a QR code, and when you activate that QR code, it takes you back into the garden, and a flower grows, and your recorded message is on the flower. But the thing is, you could actually share that QR code with someone that you want to hear that message. And in that sense, it's an interesting bridge. It was an experiment for us where maybe you're having a hard time communicating directly to a person the message that you want to share. And then this platform became a vehicle for creating a safe that's safe, and that's, there's a community there that are almost like some really powerful messages in there from Jania's mum as well. Like one of the first messages you hear, it's so powerful, but it kind of sets a template for how others could learn to grieve, which is really powerful. Like we don't have a manual for this stuff. And so I thought I listened to all the messages, and there's so many of them, and they're just, all of them were so positive. I didn't ever come across a negative one, even though we have this moderation tool set up. And I just thought, this is, and I continually hear, people who share the messages afterwards or stuff like that. It's just like, this was helpful to me. And I think that's like a really important conversation that we need to have as we create more of these digital experiences. It's like, how can we use digital technology, especially as we spend more time in there, to address these more sensitive, complex issues.
Yeah, I love that idea that we need to, we can learn how to grieve, that it doesn't necessarily come natural, or, it's something that we can teach each other. And I also love the idea of expanding our imagination of what justice looks like and feels like. I'm going to come back to China to talk a little bit more about the technical affordances. But first, I want to just jump to Joanna, since we brought up the issue of community and thinking about partnerships. Because with something like this, it's easy to become enamored, I think, with the tech. But I think what makes it especially unique is what's around the tech, what gives life to it. I think of that as the social infrastructure that is necessary, that we have to be intentional and deliberate about. And so I'd love to hear just a little bit about the kinds of partnerships that you fostered in bringing us Brianna's Garden.
Sure, thank you. It's exactly what you just said. So when Sutu called me in about January of 2021, so a year and a little bit ago, and told me about the project, and I was so inspired and so moved. I'd been working with lots of virtual reality projects and lots of projects in this space, but I saw something so special and unique in the vision of the team here and what they were creating in this moment in time, and where this type of storytelling using these types of platforms is so necessary. And so I looked first at, what companies are mission aligned, what companies are values aligned that would want to get involved in a project like this, and looked at who was really pushing the envelope on the tech, who could take this tech to the next level. And so Microsoft came to mind with the work that they're doing around volumetric capture, as well as MetaStage, who is a partner of Microsoft, who has a volumetric capture stage in Los Angeles. And so reached out to them both, and they both accepted the offer of coming in and really being foundational partners from the very beginning, which was fantastic. There's a lot of other great partners that we brought in that without whom really the vision wouldn't have been able to come a reality as it is today. We have Emerson in the audience, who Lady Phoenix has close colleagues and partnerships and deep relationships with. We have Unity, who came in, the gaming engine, also with grants and support for us, as well as we're up for some Unity Awards now, which is exciting. We worked with XR Safety Initiative. Sutu mentioned that in the AR version there was the opportunity to leave messages, and when the app was available in addition to the premiere at Tribeca, the app was also available on the Google Play Store and the App Store. So it was really important that we had content moderation with a topic as important as this, to make sure that the messages that people were hearing were messages that aligned with the project and the values. So Sutu called Kavya Perlman an XR safety initiative to make sure that we were ensuring the safety inside the experience of people who were working with it. Sutu brought in his band of artists that that dedicated their time and their love and their creativity to the project, and we also had Echo VR who did the audio, and that all of that is just on the AR project, that we premiered, and Heidi, who is already called out, it deserves a double call out from Hijinks PR, and then Tribeca, right? Tribeca invited the project in as part of their Juneteenth, their first Juneteenth, first moment coming back hybrid. We're huge partners for the augmented reality version, and then based on what they've seen there, Filmgate Interactive was so inspired by it and invited us to come down with the Art Basel and the Perez Art Museum. So it's just, you see this village of people who see Lady Phoenix's vision and see the generosity of Janaya and Kenny and Miss Tamika and sharing their life experience, right? And then, so that's where we were just on the AR, right? But what's premiering here at South by, what's premiering here is a whole new project, right? So building on top of the augmented reality, where we had that reach, where we got messages from people in Switzerland and in Ohio. You see them downloading it, you see them posting it online, and you see this saying her name, this time with flowers, happening all over the world, not just the people at the festivals. And so, Sutu mentioned at the beginning the idea of, are we going with AR, are we going with VR, how are we creating the project? So this project that's premiering here, is a virtual reality version, so it takes you inside the world. It takes you in a more immersive space. It's not overlaying the augmented experience into the world, but it brings you inside. You're in VR. You're sort of a captive audience. You're only experiencing what's in that world. And so there are brand new partnerships that were built out. Microsoft has amazing technology like AltSpace and what they're doing with Mesh. Which is one of the great things of working with a company like Microsoft from the beginning, that as the project grows, there's different avenues and different technologies we can tap into. We brought in BRC, who is an award-winning world creator for worlds like AltSpace. We have Athena in the audience, who we're so grateful for both on the creation side as well as on the virtual creation side of the worlds, as well as the physical installation here at South by Southwest, and we're very, very grateful for Blake and the whole team at South by who continued to take a chance with the project. And I just we realized that they hadn't seen it, like Blake, they actually still haven't seen it, and they programmed us just knowing how great the original AR version was and what the vision was, and so we're super, super grateful for that as well.
Thank you,
and just
Joanna.
the team.
Thank you. I'm just going to switch our gears a little bit just so we can hear, because you mentioned it, and I'd love to hear directly from China about the VR components, what makes it unique, challenges that arose. Just geek out with us for a little bit about what's behind the scenes.
Sure. So first, thank you for inviting us into this project, Lady Fee. We have been involved since the AR portion of the project, and this starts with Mixed Reality Capture Studios, who's a market-leading volumetric producer when it comes to capturing the story, capturing the person, the human, in a 3D immersive way. And you see this in the AR experience through Janaya. You see that in the VR experience with Miss Tamika and Kenny and Janaya, and these colors pop, right? So that's really where this started, is we call them MRCS. They came in, and really I represent an entire team of people who were passionate about this project, and something would come up as a part of as this project evolved, and I would just pick up the phone and be like, hey, we need to store these volumetric captures on Azure. Can anyone help me? Someone steps up. Hey, can I get help with, we're looking at VR. Who's a fantastic partner that we could work with? And Big Rock Creative came in and was an incredible partner over the last few months, putting this all together. So to nerd out a little bit, for those who haven't seen the VR experience yet, it does start in the Brianna room. And this is used using photogrammetry. So think about realistic life photos that are all stitched together to fully bring you in the space. Microsoft didn't do this piece. This is Lady Fee bringing in even more partners that we met, I think, at Tribeca.
Greg.
Greg Downing.
Greg.
No, he's my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, your
Greg
friend.
Downing.
Okay, yes. And so Lady Fee's like, can we put the volumetric captures in the photogrammetry space? And I'm like, oh, yeah, we can figure this out. Sure. And I'm like, I don't think I've seen this on AltSpace yet. Well, let's try it. And so Big Rock was an amazing partner. Brent Wilson, he is an architect on our Microsoft team that has been an incredible technical partner in helping get volumetric playback into AltSpace. I think not many people have seen actual humans outside of avatars on this platform, and putting it together. What an amazing way to stitch this tell stories in a kind of next generation way. Now, moving into the garden, this is, as Lady Fee says, Max Poly Club. And so for those who aren't familiar, so when you're looking at a VR experience under the hood, you have something called polys. So there's a series of triangles that add texture and detail to the experience. So the more texture you have in an area, the more triangles are concentrated in that area. And what that means is there's more on-demand power required of that device, and that's really where Reverb 2 came into the picture, to really tell that story and be able to process it in a way to render beautifully these spaces, but balancing rich volumetric capture that looks amazing. This is content heavy with a super rich garden of different colors and heights and stories. Was a really interesting performance challenge. And we're really proud of the work that has come together with this entire team. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those ins and outs. So there's so much to celebrate about Brianna's Garden, but I also want to give space for us to raise some of the broader societal concerns that might be associated with the technologies that have gone into this, and including the challenges of creating safe online spaces, which Sutu mentioned very briefly in passing when he noted that there's moderation going on in terms of the comments that are left there. And so I want to just open up space for anyone who can help us think through some of the challenges and the possibilities of creating safe online spaces with Brianna's Garden as a exemplar.
I'd love to start us, if that's okay. So in the AR experience, we had XRSI, the safety initiative, monitoring the messages that are coming through. And we wanted to carry that on into the VR experience and really doing this in a responsible fashion. Now there are already out-of-the-box tools that come with the platform. So for example, enabling a safety bubble around yourself so people can't get into your space, and making sure you can maintain those safe distances. But there's also an aspect where we partnered with Big Rock again on the moderation design. Not only do we have docents in the booth, we have digital docents in the garden who are stewards to make sure that folks are safe in these spaces. And while it's not a silver bullet, and it's more of a reactive notion, we can swiftly address things if they were to come up as quickly as possible. Now, there's another aspect of that when we think about kind of responsible safety in the metaverse. It feels weird saying that. It's a little bit of a buzzword at this point, but it's also the proactive side, making sure that others are educated as to the tools that they have available to them, that they can enable, disable, move away from people, and really looking at it from both of those perspectives.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what else to add to that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, China said it. I was going to say, too, a small concern that came up just in the booth itself, experiencing it physically. What I realized is that those similar to what China said about the bubble around, for a project like this, you need that actually physically in the booth too. At conventions, there's all kind of chatter, laughter, people catching up. They haven't seen each other since pandemic. It's like, oh my God, some people had babies, they're sharing their babies. Suju had a baby since the pandemic. So we actually have another member of the team now. So what I learned too pretty quickly is that people need space to actually experience it physically, and as Sutu said in the beginning, with the AR app, we prompt you to find a quiet place. And I realized that we needed those similar prompts even in a convention, right? And so I experienced it in the midst of all the hustle and bustle, and then I asked my team very respectfully, can you move outside of the booth to have conversations so that we can really be with the experience and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, even though there's hundreds of people around.
And I think, like, one of the things I realized when just hanging out and watching people was, there is sort of a power, again, when you're in person, it can be really tough to have tough conversations. But when you're sort of in a virtual world, it can take that barrier away a little bit. So one of the things, I was a bit reluctant to go into a multiplayer VR experience with the project, and I've come around because it's an opportunity where you could organise a meeting and walk through a safe space in that sense. So I think we're at the beginning of these types of conversations and designing these types of experiences and thinking about how we use kind of immersive digital environments to facilitate that type of interaction. And I'm just grateful that we have the ear of Microsoft, that we can bring the lessons that we've learnt throughout this whole year and a half to make sure that that's front of mind for them because they're so influential. Millions of people are joining digital metaverses every day, and it's an opportunity to start to incorporate some really strong policy and moral values about how people can interact in these spaces. So that's definitely been a good lesson.
I think we should explain a little bit more about what was the platform that we built it in as well. And why it's important, the fact that it is a social interactive platform. And Lady Phoenix mentioned as well how the experience of people in the booth. We're showing HP came in as a partner as well on the virtual reality experience here, and so the HP Reverb G2 that China just mentioned is such an immersive experience. The resolution on the headset is so high, the audio is so sort of piercing in the best possible way, and so the visuals are stunning, the audio is stunning, and in the shared experience. So AltSpace, do you want to talk a little bit about what AltSpace is and how just a little bit more about how it is a shared platform, and so what that brought into the considerations about having docents in there? Because it's pretty different if people haven't experienced AltSpace and they've just experienced other VR, they might not understand that quite so well.
Oh, sure. So AltSpace is a virtual platform that's been around for years, where folks can gather, host events, have community building events. There's even churches in there. There's all kinds of worlds that people call UGC, user-generated content, that they can create for themselves, their own space. And so one of the really beautiful things is this multiplayer aspect that you can make a friend in AltSpace as your avatar and have this really beautiful connection. And something that's come up a few times during South by, or people comment on the eye contact that you can make in AltSpace really brings you there and brings you presence. But I actually think the best person to ask why AltSpace is actually Lady Fee. Why were you okay with it?
Yeah, and I actually wanted to, if it's okay, call Athena to the mic, because Athena is the CEO of BRC, and some of these considerations I worked through personally with her, and wanted to talk about, if you would, Athena, please talk about the technology and how these considerations, as we discussed, came about. Yeah, thank you for being here, Athena.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Athena Demos with Big Rock Creative, and we build places for people to connect. It's very important to us to have experiences where you're connecting consciousness to consciousness. We have our physical avatars. We dress ourselves, we have a look, we have a style, and we do that in the metaverse. And so when we meet in the physical, we're connecting consciousness to consciousness. So when we meet in the digital, we're connecting consciousness to consciousness even more than what we do in the physical realm, because that is all we have. We have a limited amount of wardrobe choices and colors, although kudos to Microsoft, because everyone looks like an individual. And, you go on a lot of these platforms, and all the avatars are similar. But there's enough choices in alt space that everyone is an individual. And the eye gaze, that's something else. Like, we do eye gazing workshops in alt space as part of our offerings with Big Rock Creative. And you're staring into cartoon eyes, but you feel the presence of the other person. So for something like Brianna's Garden, it was super important for us to have hosts and docents in the garden, so that after you go through this moving experience of being in the room, you have somebody there to say, hi, welcome, we're here. We can give you a virtual hug. And we do. We hug each other in there and walk you through the experience, and make sure you find the stepping stones and go to the lotus flower. There's someone waiting there for you. It creates connection, it creates engagement, and it makes it a compelling experience and room for healing.
Thank you so much for bringing that into the space. So I have one more question that I'm going to pose, and then I'm going to open it up to all of you. So you can start thinking about who wants to come to the mic, or you can also drop your questions in the app, and we can see them up here and read them aloud. So the question is first to Lady Phoenix, and then if Janai and Kenny, you want to add anything in terms of your own vision of where Brianna's Garden could go, how it might move in the world, what you hope people will get out of it, you can also chime in too. But today is to kind of the launch. So I'm curious from our creator, what is your vision for how the garden will grow and spread now and into the future? What are the possibilities?
Thank you, Ruha. If it's okay with you, I actually would like to flip it and start with Kenny, Janai, and then me, just because. Janai, just because, I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking and want to give more space.
Well, I think
really
the
their
possibilities
vision,
are
too.
endless. Within the the alternate reality world, the virtual world, and in real life, we actually there was a physical real life garden in was it New York or okay, so New York. So yeah, we're trying to do that. Hopefully in the future, all over the place. So. But with the, Brianna's Garden, it's a way, to me it means, it's a good way for people to, keep saying her name. Because Brianna hasn't even got justice. So at the end of the day, we don't need people to forget about her, or the situation or all the, unjust things that are going on, all over the world. So I think Brianna's Garden just shines light, on a tragic situation, but in a good way to keep people, saying her name and looking at the situation in a positive way.
How did you feel about seeing your mom as a hologram in there, Janai?
Seeing my mom, it was like normally seeing her though. To me, I mean, I see her every day, so it's not no different for me to be able to see her like that. But I mean, it still was cool that she was actually made into a hologram.
And that room that so when you enter this room and you're greeted by Janaya's mom, but what is that room? Is that room in your house?
Yes.
And what's featured there?
Well, that room is at my mom's house, but what'd you say?
Yeah, like there's a bunch of art there. Where did all that come from?
That art came from different people from everywhere over the world. Because we had a PO box at one point, and people were mailing us their artwork. So that's where a lot of that come from. A lot of them are also laws. There's a lot of things in there. Her nursing degree. There's a lot of things in that room.
All of her accolades.
For what?
Her accolades.
Yeah, those two. There's like everything in that room. That room is really built around Brianna. So that's how that room came about.
What would Brianna say about the Brianna room and like all of the stuff? What would she think about this whole experience?
Brianna would think she's a superstar.
Yeah, she will think.
Superstar.
She'll have a big head.
Please don't make me think about it, because she would think she was a superstar, and then she would try to tell me and Kenny that we can't talk to her. She's above us. So that's where that comes from.
What is a lot of people see the hashtag Breeway. What does Breeway mean?
Actually, Brianna's friend Alicia and my family kind of came up with this. So Brianna always went by Bree. So when they came up with Breeway, we were sitting in the dining room. Actually, Alicia was rapping. Don't ask why, but she was rapping, and that's how it kind of more so came about. But originally, they wasn't going to do 2 E's and 2 Y's, but Alicia was like, Brianna's extra. There's no way we're going to do 1 E and 1 Y. So that's how that came about.
And so when we hashtag Breeway everywhere with the blue heart and blue butterfly, what does that symbolize?
It's symbolizing her. It was our personal hashtag for us, but other people use it now. But it was our personal hashtag just to make sure that we knew her name was still being put out there.
That's what's up. And my last question is, and this is maybe a little bit of a sidebar, but recently you went to court with your mom, and you guys had on jackets or T-shirts with Brianna's face on it. Not saying anything wild, but just literally her face. Can you tell us what happened in the courtroom when you were wearing just a jacket of her face or a T-shirt?
Well, we did it 2 days in a row, but we got kicked out of the courtroom. They were saying that it wasn't something that was allowed in that courtroom, so we wasn't able to wear it, so we got kicked out every day.
Just from wearing her face.
Yep.
It's really important that we wear her face and say her name, because it actually is, upsetting the setup. And again, there's walls of injustice that are built, and we need to keep shouting into those walls until they come down, not just for Brianna, but for everyone. And so my vision of what I would love to see happen with this project is completely mending the hoop around Brianna's purpose. The large part of this project, the main intention is to align Brianna with her purpose and not her pain. Her pain is known, it's advertised, like a brand new shoe out there. There's so much advertisement around Brianna's pain and not enough discussion around her purpose. Her purpose was healing. Right? Her purpose is healing, because culturally we believe that when you go beyond flesh, you still have life. You're still in the spirit world having life. So Brianna's purpose is healing. Brianna's purpose is standing in the gap between transformation and dis-ease, right? And so her wanting to be a nurse was honored by Spalding University. She's now a nurse. She has a nursing degree. You can see it in the room. That's a real room in the real house. These are real photos, right? Real mementos, real accomplishments, real accolades. Through the VR experience, we brought you into the heart of the family. There's no way you're going to Kentucky and knock on her door and go into her house. Hey, can I see the Brianna room? It's not going to happen, right? And so with generosity, they allowed for this VR experience to happen, and allowing and inviting folks into the heart of their experience with Brianna. And so when you go into the VR experience, you see her nursing degree right below a large portrait of her in one of her favorite colors, purple, and her purple scrubs with her badges from the hospital. My intention with this project is to complete that loop of purpose. We want to put Brianna's Garden in every major hospital around the United States. I would love to around the world, since it's virtual. Anybody can bring it in, but Brianna needs to be placed in the hospitals so that she can, in an omnipresent way, continue to live within her purpose of holding space for people's transformation. She was somebody that, whether it was on the, in the ambulance, right, in the back, helping people toward more life when they were injured, whether it was in the hospital floor, helping people toward more life, as an assistant nurse, and now, virtually and spiritually helping people toward more life by having a garden or a safe space where people can go and share their emotions. In hospitals, there's no really welcoming area. It's cold, the music is terrible, the incessant beeping, the fluorescent lights. The hospital should be a place moving toward more life for people. The hospital is interesting in that it's a location, right? Like drop a pin, it's a location where life is moving forward, right? Through portals, people are bringing life into the world, and then life is moving beyond flesh through portals, through what we characterize as death. And so in that way, ceremony is present, life is present, but not really being honored. And so Brianna's Garden, in the most brass tacks explanation, is a ceremony in a vessel for life, right? Whether it's coming into this reality through flesh or moving beyond this reality into spirit. And Brianna, having been in both realms, is the perfect steward and the perfect nurse to stand in that gap and help people toward more life. So that's the goal,
So from one visionary to another, I think of the words of Octavia E. Butler when she wanted to put a fine point on it and bring something to life. She wrote, "So be it, see to it."
That's right.
So while we wait for a few people to line up with questions for our wonderful panelists, can you join me 3 times so we can bring that vision to life? So be it, see to it. So be it, see to it.
So be it, see to it.
Ashe. All right. Can we have a few questions? We have about 7 minutes here. Just line up. Go ahead and line up. It's good to see how many we have so we can know how long to go into the explanations or the responses. So my brother Baratunde, please.
I'm not trying to be on this mic all day. Y'all are so dope. I'm thinking about the persistence of this memorial and what is your commitment to maintaining it. It reminds me of kind of the roadside memorials that we see for people in accidents, and what you said about the home, like you can let people into your house without letting people into your house, so it's safe. So how long do you imagine this being real? And then what plans might there be for others who are inspired by this to memorialize their moments, their people, their loved ones, their histories, because we're not all gonna have access to this dream team of production and compassion. Thank you.
Can I add one thing to that? One of the core part of this, both the AR and the VR experience, is actually the holograms of Kenny and Janaya and Tamika, and those holograms could go on to exist in museums. It's a digital format now, and in the future we'll be seeing a lot more holograms, and they might replace like our standard 2D pancake video format. So it's really important to think just what a hologram might be like for us in the future, and now we've captured this historical moment in the memories of the family here, and I think that's one really important legacy that can continue to live on even when the platforms continue to change, which is inevitable.
So to that end, it would be looking at institutional partners for the historical relevance, right? And then I think with museums, and much like hospitals, there are boards that look at the long-term legacy of projects that they invite or take on. And so we would partner with those institutions, whether they be hospitals or museums, to discuss the long-term legacy. And in terms of others being able to memorialize, or as I would like to say, maybe I don't have the proper definition of memorialize, but I don't think of this as just a memorial. I really think of it as mending the hoop. And so in mending the hoop for someone, you allow them and assist them in living within their purpose. Pretty soon, there are various companies out there trying to solve death, meaning we can be reanimated as avatars. I think that, it's not just for television anymore. That will be a reality. And so when that's a reality, what's our relationship to that person still? What's our relationship to their dreams, to their mission, to their legacy, to their vision, right? So assisting people in living in their purpose, we see through music. You can still listen to Elvis and Chuck Berry, right? Their legacy and their purpose still lives on to make music and share music with everyone. Brianna's purpose was to be a nurse and to live out her purpose as a healer. There are other people who have purpose. I think that it's cool to memorialize them, but this is a little bit different than a roadside memorial, because this is about mending the hoop for them so that they can be within their purpose beyond flesh. And some folks' purpose, like Brianna, if we allow her and assist her in living within her purpose, the world will continue to change and improve for the better. She has already sparked an entire global movement, right? And so what if that global movement were healing? How much better would our society be? We can't forget about her just because she's been awarded justice. Okay, that's one aspect, right? She's got the justice, but who was she as a person? She wasn't a campaign. Who was she as a person? She was a healer. She was a caregiver. So her energy and what she wanted from the world and for the world as a gift to this planet must still move forward through the energy of this world, right? So.
Thank you. So because we're running short on time, I'd just like to, if possible, hear a few of the questions, and then we can see how to respond. So as succinctly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole Lazaro from Zio Design. Very moved by the AR experience, and then experienced it in XR yesterday. And I am inspired by the idea of gardens in the real world going forward. I think that can be an amazing addition to our society. And then my question is that, building on what you were saying, Lady Phoenix, is that if when we're doing public spaces, especially in VR, have you thought about the environment after you take the headset off as well, and creating a space just to a bench, to sit and process what was going on?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the feedback for me that I've taken personal notes on that. And I alluded to that earlier when I said I realized that we're in a convention, but people need to move outside of the sacred space of the booth. Mm-hmm. And sister gardens actually were something that Sutu and I discussed early on with the AR version. So Brianna in the hospital and sister gardens also around the world. And if we can make those sister gardens at the hospital, we're feeding two birds from one hand, which I really love the idea of.
That's really
and
great.
Thank you for
so
visiting the booth.
Oh yeah, wonderful.
I know we're short on time, so I'll keep it quick. Darren Carter from Oakland and from Coinbase. Firstly, I want to give you your flowers. Hey,
oh my God, hi.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here in person. Thank you for giving us all permission to be vulnerable. And I want to give you your flowers for such a beautiful tool for society to go on this journey of healing together. Lady Fee, you earlier alluded to the fact that we often have to rely on our own systems and our own devices because we're not afforded the privilege through the legal system. For the audience today, are there any other avenues to seek justice that we should be conscious of and pursuing?
That's a really good question.
There's a lot going on right now. We're trying to get people to sign the petition for the DOJ to put pressure on them. there's not really much I can say to keep doing besides saying her name, because now all we're waiting on is the FBI and the DOJ to pursue the case. So that's really where our next standstill is.
Where can they sign the petition if they want to sign?
It's on at Brianna's
It's on
Garden.
Until Freedom's page.
It's on Until
I know
Freedom.
that.
It's on my personal page at Yes Lady Phoenix on Instagram. It's on at Brianna's Garden on Instagram, right in the bio.
Oh, it's in my bio on Instagram as well.
All right, I'll find it. Everyone here should sign.
Sign and put it in your bio.
Please.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Kraus, and you mentioned ceremonies. I love the ritual. I found this experience so moving. I love the story of the snowstorm. I love the car pieces, the stones. I'm curious because it felt to me like a conversation where different people were kind of on my shoulder, whispering in my ear, and I could look around and see the beauty of the garden. I'm curious about the moments of delight, because this was a real experience that a human has when they're in the garden. Were there any moments that moved you or surprised you in the interaction or in what people took away? What did you expect? What was different?
Well, something that we notice is, so Kenny, actually, people actually really love Kenny. First of all, he's an amazing dude, but people love Kenny. Kenny should legit have his own podcast because he's fantastic. So part of the delight outside of the app was actually just knowing the family and seeing even the changes from when I first met Janaya. She was just like, this is cool, no thanks. And because a lot of people come to her with sort of like these like hyped up visions, but empty, right? They never actually complete what they said they want to do, or they're just using the name to clout chase, right? And so I think for me, what's been wonderful is actually developing a relationship with Kenny, developing a relationship with Janaya. That's been really precious. When beyond this project, I feel like I will know them for life. They're always going to have my phone number and always can reach me, right? But with the project, it was amazing to see how men reacted to Kenny, how vulnerability became more possible for men with this project because of Kenny being vulnerable and sharing, sharing his vision, sharing his memories. So that was the surprise for me.
I'm so sorry. I see someone raising a sign at the back telling us time's up because there's another session, I believe, and I know that you have to run. But some of us are going to hang out for a little while, maybe in the hallway, I think, if they need this room. Please join me in giving the entire panel another round